Good evening, everyone. I'm Tim Ryan, along with Mary Carrillo, and welcome to night one of our CBS Sports coverage of the 1990 U.S. Open. Amidst the wilting humidity of the morning and the dramatic downpours of the afternoon, we've had plenty of tennis action as 128 men and 128 women undertake the singular challenge of Flushing Meadow. Remarkably, however, there seem to be no clear-cut favorites as in years past. But one might say that the draw, like the elements of nature, seems to be in disarray. Well, Mary, it's kind of a Stephen King kind of a day here today, and a lot of mystery surrounding the entire tournament. Should be fun.
Well, the U.S. Open is always kind of crazy, Tim. You know, first of all, it's in New York. You know, there's always a lot of noise, the planes, the trains. The site itself might change, you know, and the weather, as you say, it's always very hot here. Today, in fact, it was also very wet. In this very unsettling atmosphere, I think a lot can get settled. For instance, who's number one in the world for the men and the women? 3 Grand Slams have already been played this year. There have been 6 different winners. Stefan Edberg took over the #1 position a couple of weeks after winning at Wimbledon. Martina Navratilova feels that she can be #1 really, as she says, for the first time in 3 years. Steffi Graf, the defending champion, she's had a down year this year, even though she took the Australian Open. So she needs a win here. But my pick is Monica Seles. I mean, I think she's playing great, great ball. She's the player, in my mind, to beat this year. She's only lost 1 match since March. Leslie Visser is also part of our team here. She's got some thoughts about Monica Seles and others.
I agree with you, Mary. It seems that Monica Seles has been a little bit forgotten here, which must sound strange about the 3rd-ranked player in the world. But it seems that much of the glory and the light has been showered around 14-year-old Capriati, 33-year-old Martina, and defending champion Steffi Graf. But let's look at Seles. She has a 2-0 record against Graf. She's won 2 out of 3 matches against Martina, and she just signed an endorsement deal which could bring her total earnings to more than $4 million. So I say, hey, she's doing something right. On the men's side, Yvonne Lendl has been a model of consistency here. And, of course, Edberg and Becker are the favorites. But let's not forget Agassi, who himself conveniently forgot to play Wimbledon this year. But I think he's going to do really well. He's a great hard-court player. He gets to the semis, and I think he's going places in those lava shorts.
All right, Leslie. Well, now, Mary, a lot of talk about Jennifer Capriati, 14 years of age, seeded number 13, has to be talked about. She's doing things really well.
Oh, she deserves to be talked about, Tim. She won the junior title here last year, and a lot of people feel that she can go very far. I think the same thing. I think she'll at least get to the quarters of the Open.
Jimmy Connors. Hard to believe there's going to be U.S. Open without him playing in it. Had to pull out because of the calf muscle and lack of condition. He
played in 20 straight U.S. Opens, and Vic Seixas had the record for 24 straight, so Jimmy can't win that one. It's a pity about him. You know, that stadium court out there, it tends to dwarf people and make them smaller. It only made Jimmy bigger. He played his best ball here. He won the U.S. Open 5 times, including 3 times at Flushing. He will be missed.
Well, he was a champion, a great one. And speaking of champions past, Boris Becker was on hand to begin the defense of his title. Last year's champion on court today against Juan Aguilera of Spain, a clay court specialist, a tough competitor from the baseline. Aguilera serving from the far court, and that passing shot had him on top 4-3. Jan Tiriac trying to look benign at that point.
But Tiriac was worried because Aguilera had beaten Becker. Of course, it was on clay, but it was at the German Open this year. But as you can say, he's not comfortable at the net. And once Becker won that first set, which was riddled with errors, he calmed down.
Well, now in the second set, Aguilera is serving at 3-all and has called for a foot fault. That was a double fault, and he went on to be broken in that game. An upsetting development for him. There's the linesman who made the call. And now in the second set at 3-5, Aguilera serving again. Solid player from the baseline, but so is Boris Becker.
Oh, you know, he tried to take the air out of the ball, which sometimes defeats Becker, but not tonight.
Well, Becker won the set 6-3 and the third 6-2 for a straight sets victory, and afterwards visited with Mary.
Boris, you've spoken about the feeling you get at Wimbledon. You say when you walk out onto the grass court, you feel it in your knees. Coming back as defending champion here, do you feel that stadium court in your knees?
Well, it felt by far the best this year to come back to the U.S. Open and to play my first round match in any other year. So it's that feeling from the tournament in England is coming also here a little bit.
It's got to be nice. When you won last year, you sat right outside the doorway here and just sat down and...
I couldn't believe it.
It was like...
I couldn't believe it.
To me, it seemed like you were, in a way, you felt you had legitimized yourself. You had won on a surface other than grass. Is that what that was all about?
I think so. I think after looking back over the last 5 years, it was my most important tournament win. You know, of course, Wimbledon was the tournament which made me famous, but I think US Open was a tournament that proved to me and to everybody else that I'm a player who can, you know, play on a grass and on hard court, very good tennis, and that was very important for me.
You came through this one well, but that first set, 14 forehand errors, you know, you seem to be...
A few too many, huh?
How are you playing?
Well, the first set wasn't too good. I hope you talk about the third and the second. But it was difficult, you know, the rain delayed us for so many hours, and it was difficult, you know, for him and for me. We didn't play great, both in the first set. After that, you know, the pressure was a bit less. I started to feel more comfortable, and it was good.
Your 1990 first-round loss at the French Wimbledon final, a very tough loss. Mm-hmm. How does this make the U.S. Open feel for you? I mean, can this salvage your year? Can a win here make you #1?
The race has been very close between Stefan, Ivan, and myself. And almost any other week, there's a change now in the rankings. And sometimes, you know, now Stefan, you know, was playing very well this summer. He's #1 for so long. You know, Lendl, myself, we're so close up there. I think it's going to end with the last tournament of the year, the Masters.
All right. Good luck to you, Boris.
Thank you.
Class champion, class act, 22 years of age. Hard to believe. He's a remarkable young man. But like the 49ers in football and the Pistons in basketball, Steffi Graf is looking to three-peat at the U.S. Open. And today she took the first step when she met young Canadian Maureen Drake, who, despite her name, was clearly out of her element in all of the rainy weather that they had to contend with this afternoon. Graf serving from the far court. And in came this incredible-looking dark Stephen King sky, and things really got nasty.
The wind really played with the ball. It was hard even for Steffi Graf, among the quickest on the tour, to track it. And look how bad it was out there. For a while, it looked like she was going to be blown back to Brule with her little dog, Toto.
She was at 4-1 in the first set, went on to win it 6-1 when play finally resumed after about a half-hour delay by this torrential downpour, more than half an inch of rain falling. When they got back out there in the second set, Graf still very much in command. Good play here by Drake, but Graf went on to win the second set 6-1 as well, as we see her here. And afterwards, we asked her about what it's like here.
Well, with that kind of weather, I just wanted to get it over, and, you know, they were not such a tough rally, so I just wanted to keep it going.
She certainly did. She was really storming around out there. You're only using about 20, 30 seconds on the changeovers. But how much can you really tell with such an easy first-round match for Steffi?
Normally, nothing. Normally, you don't take anything away from an early round Steffi Graf match because she kills people. But in this case, this year, I think we have to take it into consideration. She's not as confident. She talked a couple of weeks ago at the Canadian Open about building confidence with each round, and she won the Canadian. I always assumed she had confidence. I mean, that's a surprise to hear that. So it was an important day for Steffi, and I thought she looked good.
Seles and Martina must be on her mind in this tournament. Well, still ahead, we'll check in on Mats Wilander's comeback. We'll show why Monica Seles just loved the stadium. And Leslie Visser runs down the senior ball boy as the U.S. Open continues here on CBS. In winning the U.S. Open, he vaulted into the #1 spot in tennis. But that proved to be the high point of his career. And all that has followed has been a steady streak of frustration and disappointment. Losing in the second round a year ago to young Pete Sampras.
6-1, 6-4.
Things haven't gone too well since that time, but he is back at the U.S. Open and playing #8 seed Brad Gilbert tonight here on the stadium court. Gilbert leading 2-1. And this was a sample of the play. In the third set, Gilbert having won the first 6-4, Wilander the second 6-3. Gilbert's shots like that gave him a 6-3 win in the third set. Now we join the stadium court action live. Brad Gilbert serving at 1-4 as Mats Wilander hanging in there in the fourth set. The 1988 U.S. Open champion. And Mary, Brad Gilbert, always a tough opponent for everybody. He's a spoiler when he plays guys ahead of him, and he is hard to beat when you're below him. It is 40-15, and for Wilander, a guy that has had such turmoil in the last 2 years.
He really has. His ranking, as you may have seen, 59. He's dropped all the way down. The first time in 9 years at the U.S. Open that Mats has been unseeded here. But Brad Gilbert was nervous about this match right from the start, and it has showed. He served badly in the first set. He served 44% in the first set, dropped all the way down into the 30s in the second set, the set he lost. He was uneasy. He knew this was going to be a tough match. He had a bad feeling about it, and it's become a real dogfight. Look at that. I mean, that's not like Brad Gilbert. Brad Gilbert rarely, gives away those kind of points. And Wilander, for the first time in so long, has looked alert. He's looked quick. Sure, he's making a lot of goofy errors too, but there's also some flashes of his '88 form.
Very hot, humid evening after a very rainy afternoon that followed a hot, sunny morning. A strange day in Flushing Meadow.
Boris Becker brought 11 shirts on the court with him tonight because he knew it was going to be tough out there.
Fine shot by Wilander to the open court. 30.
Pretty nifty move by Wilander here, set up by that first shot of his. But you can see Gilbert, he's just not playing with an awful lot of confidence. And it's funny because last year he showed up at the U.S. Open. Brad Gilbert, having won 17 straight matches, we all thought he did great. He lost in the very first round to Todd Witzkin in 5 sets. He hasn't had good luck here. His best effort was a quarterfinal round in 1987.
Well, as we see this live action from the stadium court at 11:45 Eastern Time, we must remind you that we will not be able to stay with this match if it continues beyond the midnight hour. But we'll stay with it for these next few minutes to give you some of the flavor of the 1988 champion Mats Wilander trying to make a comeback here at the Open. And so Gilbert holds serve, and now Wilander leads 4-2, and he'll be serving when we return. Well, still ahead, a look at the women's play today and the story of a ball person who is nothing if not young at heart. Welcome back to the U.S. Open. And Mary, earlier in our program, you flat out picked Monica Seles to win this whole thing.
Well, she played for 44 minutes in her first round match today, and I think I feel pretty good about that prediction, Tim. We already know how good she is on the slow red clay when she won the French Open. This is going to be her best surface to my mind because it shows off best her power, her speed, and her court savvy.
Well, in some of the bright sunshine we saw today and in 90-degree temperatures, Monica Seles went out there against an 18-year-old Bulgarian by the name of Elena Pampilova.
Now, the last time Monica had played on this stadium court, she lost to Chris Evert in the 4th round. But 1 year later, she's brought a lot more onto that stadium court.
Pampilova serving in the first game of the match. 30-all.
I kind of thought you had to be named Malevich to play tennis if you were from Bulgaria. But Pampilova's been around a long time. These two knew each other in the juniors. And the fact is, though, that Monica hadn't seen Pampilova play for about 3 years. She'd gotten better.
And now she's at love 5 in the first set, serving again. And a nice cross-court winner there from Pampilova. Now we move to match point. She's down love 6, love 5. And Seles blasts a good service return and wins the match. Afterwards, Mary asked her if she should feel number 1.
No, I still think I'm number 3. I mean, I beat Steffi and Martina this year, but I mean, I'm on the ranking still number 3. I mean, I'm just going to be happy if I stay at number 3, and I'm just going to try to play. You know, that's all I'm going to care this year. I'm not going to look at the ranking.
Well, she will be a force the rest of the way. Tonight in the grandstand, an easy night for number 8 seed Mary Jo Fernandez. Number 11, Helena Sukova, struggled through a pair of tie breaks against Joe Dury of Great Britain. Canada's Helen Kellecy was a 3-set winner, while Italy's Sandra Cecchini rolled in 2. Roz Fairbank Niederfer advanced in 3 sets, and likewise Larissa Savchenko of the Soviet Union and Sylvia Haneke of West Germany. We'll have more in a moment as we flash up some of the other results of women's first-round play at the U.S. Open. Live from the stadium court, Brad Gilbert has just broken Mats Wilander to make it 4-5 in the fourth set. Gilbert up 2-1. And obviously, Wilander with a chance there to even things, failed to do so. So Gilbert will be serving, trying to get even at 5-all in the fourth. And we will not be able to stay with that match as we are going off the air shortly. But obviously, there'll be a lot of interest in the success of Mats Wilander, the 1988 U.S. Open champion. Let's take a look at some of the scores in men's play, seeded players. It was Muster over Rahunen, the Finn, today, as he had to retire because of cramps in the fourth set. In number 12 seed, Pete Sampras over Dan Goldie, his fellow American in straight sets. Jim Courier, number 14, over Wally Masur of Australia. And number 16 seed Martin Haite over Martin Blackman. And a quick look at some of the scores from seeded men's action this afternoon. Now, tomorrow, Jennifer Capriati, 14 years of age, seeded 13, makes her U.S. Open debut. Is this girl all upset? Is she uptight? Is she concerned? The answer clearly is no. There you saw her this afternoon.